The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. We are back. Loving baseball when we were 12 and innocent. I'm Ralph Tycho, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and I am psyched today because my guest is former Major League ball player Mike Heath. Hello, Mike. Welcome to Comfortably Zoned.
How's it going, Ralph, all the way from here from Tampa, Florida? Everything good out on the West Coast today?
Well, it's rainy and cold in Northern California. We are going through an unusually cold winter, and but health-wise, we're doing good, and I've been looking forward to this for a long time. So,
well, I remember living out in the Bay Area. I lived in Danville from basically 79 to 86, and I remember when we used to get snow on Mount Diablo and snow in the Oakland Hills.
Well, were you in Danville when Big Ben Davidson had his bar?
Boy, I really don't know. I didn't attend many bars back in the day in Oakland.
Well, no, I lived in Danville too. It was within walking distance from my house, and I remember that. And Danville is a beautiful place.
Yes, it is.
I'm in Alameda now, right across the bay from San Francisco and across the moat from Oakland. You played out here, and but first I want to talk about your age 12. You were 1967, and the reason I picked that is as a theme, age 12. As a fan, as a young kid, you're never more enthusiastic than you were when you were 12. And the intellectual part is starting to come together. You typically, if you're a baseball nut like I was, you want to learn about the history of baseball, and you're starting to see what it's all about. And so I want to know what age 12 was like. Who took you to your first game? And it might have been a spring training game. You lived in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, if I'm not mistaken.
I lived in the Tampa area, and my dad used to take me to some of the spring training games, but we had the Cincinnati Reds here in Tampa, and I used to go to Al Lopez Field back in the day here in Tampa and watch Class A, the Cincinnati Reds, during the season. So I've really never been to an MLB game at a stadium when I was a kid. I think the first time I've ever been to an MLB game is whenever I first stepped in Yankee Stadium.
Oh, wow. And let me ask you, do you remember the voice of Yankee Stadium and how he introduced you?
Yeah, I do remember. Bob, he had a very distinctive way of announcing players and stuff like that. But he was awesome.
Well, let me try this, Mike. Here I go. It's my only talent. Now batting for the Yankees, number 46, Mike Heath. Number 46. Did I catch that?
That's exactly very, very good, Ralph. Excellent. Yes, that sounds just like it. You sure you don't have a recording of that?
Now batting, number 46, Mike Heath, a great catcher. That was on. Hey, you know what I'm impressed by with your career? You played you're primarily a catcher. You were signed as a shortstop, and versatility is my thing. I think if one can play different positions, it obviously sets you up for a long career. You played every position except pitcher in your career. How did you go from being a shortstop to being a catcher?
Well, I think that the answer to what you just said was, you're a jack of all trades and a master of none, right?
Well, in your case, it wasn't so. You mastered catching, and to the point where you were a terrific addition to many clubs. And
right.
Go ahead. What made you? Was it that you knew the quickest way to the major league was wearing the tools of ignorance?
No, actually, what had happened was the Yankees got two young guys. Well, not young; they're basically my age, or little younger than I am. Domingo Ramos and Damaso Garcia. And both of those guys became very good infielders in their career. Damaso, he became a great second baseman with the Toronto Blue Jays, and Domingo Ramos, went to several teams and all that. But so the Yankees got those two guys, and those guys had great hands. They could field. They were really good. So what happened was they finally came to me one day. Cloyd Boyer came to me, CV. And I was playing third base for Syracuse at the time in spring training. And Cloyd came up to me and says, "Mike, we've been friends a long time." I said, "Yes, sir, CV." I said, "What's going on? Am I getting released?" He goes, No. He says, "What we're doing, we're thinking about moving you to catcher. What do you think?" And I'm like, "Hey, CV, whatever it's going to take to get to the big leagues, that's what I want to do." So this was in 76, and so he says, "All right, go in and see Bobby." Bobby Cox was the manager for Syracuse Chiefs at the time. And so I walked in Bobby's office, and Bobby said, "Hey, Mike, I think this is going to be a great thing for you." So he says, "But the bad thing is you have to go back to A ball." And I'm like, "Bobby, whatever it takes to get to the big league." So I went back to A ball, caught about 12 games, and played short, second, third, short, second, third, second, short, third, catch. Yeah, it was one of those years for me, just learning how to catch. So they said that I had such a great arm that being a catcher would be my best position, and so that's how it basically materialized for myself.
Beautiful. Now, we talked off the air a little bit. 78 was your first year. Unbelievable team, unbelievable amount of catchers and former catchers on that team. You mentioned that Elston Howard was very communicative with you, taught you a lot.
Yeah, he used to talk to me quite a bit. I mean, I'd sit on the bench and then I'd go to the bullpen, but he would sit there and talk to me about certain things. Yogi really never talked to me. He really didn't. And Thurman, he would talk to me all the time too. But Elston Howard would always take time out and just sit and talk with me about being a young catcher in the game and what I have to do and how you got to go about your business. And you're going to learn yourself as an athlete. Right now you're listening to people how to tell you to do things. Take a little bit of everybody and put it together and make your own self. And so he really, really helped me out tremendously.
Well, you have what I call the winning attitude. You use the expression, whatever it takes. And a scout loves to hear that. A manager loves to hear that. Whatever it takes. I'm going to do it to move up, to get better. That's tremendous. Who greased the way for you? What one? You mentioned CB. People don't know. Cloyd Boyer was the third Boyer brother that played in the major leagues. He passed away we're losing a lot of guys. He passed away. Was he the guy who made it easier for you? It's not easy, but along the way?
No, actually, the person, I don't think there, I really probably wouldn't know who the person was that was pushing for this, but I know Bertie Tebbetts was one that had mentioned that they should move me to catcher. Now, I don't know who was really behind pushing me, but Bertie Tebbetts, from what I'm understanding, was the one that came out with the idea, we need to move this kid to catcher.
He was a catcher in his own right in his day, Bertie Tebbetts. I didn't realize that he was in the Yankee organization at that time.
Yeah, that was back in the early mid-'70s. Yeah, but
Okay.
I can't say who was really pushing my ticket. But what I think happened was when I got behind the plate, it came so natural to me. And my ability was really good, and then I made strides and changes and made myself better.
Beautiful. You stayed healthy. That's
pretty much. I had a bad back.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think that's it's luck and it's staying healthy, but it has to contribute to your longevity.
Exactly. I think luck has a lot to do with it. I don't care how great a condition you are. People can get hurt, like right now, by the weirdest things. You know what I mean? So these guys today are in tip-top condition. You see a lot of guys getting hurt, and we kind of don't understand that one.
Looking back at the game, why are there so many more pitching injuries? Is it because they're undertrained, or used to be you'd want to go 9 innings and what have you, and there was a certain conditioning for it? Are pitchers pitching out of themselves now to get to 100 miles an hour? What do you attribute the increase in injuries, Tommy John surgery and the like?
Well, I think maybe it starts when these kids are young because they focus on one sport and are playing year-round instead of playing several different sports like we did back in the day. There was no travel ball back when we played. You had basketball season, football season, baseball season, and we played all different sports. I think today they concentrate and focus on one sport. And it's always told to them, well, if you don't play year-round, you're going to get left behind. Well, the good athletes will never get left behind. So I think that's a big thing. They're focusing in on one sport and constantly playing it year round. That's what I think there's probably partially happening with the athletes.
Okay. What changes in the current rules and the current way the game is played do you like, and what changes do you particularly dislike?
I really haven't been following much of it, but the rule, I say now, this is just me, the easiest job in the game today in the MLB is to be a catcher, because you don't have to worry about Bo Jackson running you over at home plate, or you don't have to worry about anybody running you over at home plate. You just catch and make a tag. Heck, you can put a first baseman behind the plate now. That's a joke. So, but you don't have to. You really don't have to worry. You don't call your own game. You don't sit and study pretty much, because they got pads on that tells them, what pitches to throw in a certain situation. And analytics is, taking a lot of the thinking out of the game and taking chances. Manager's chances, or going with his instinct out of the game. So. I think, the rule change as far as you can't run over the catcher. I mean, why not? I mean, It's always the rule has always been there. You cannot block the plate without the ball. It's plain and simple. That rule has always been there. But now, the base runner has to slide. So you as a catcher, you don't have to worry about getting tiny in a hurry. catching the ball and making himself small, wait for the impact. All you got to do is catch the ball and get the glove to the area where he's sliding.
Gotcha.
So, that rule right there, I think, I know it protects from injuries and all that, but, and I never liked them doing the switch, moving over or whatever they call it.
Right.
Where they flood one side of the infield and all that. I've never liked that.
They're going to eliminate it, and good, I couldn't think of the name, the switching over thing, and it leaves our brains so quickly. I think it was horrible, and I'll tell you why. It puts players in a defensive position that they're not apt to use their talents. Like a third baseman's going to be playing right field, that kind of thing. And especially the double play, which I think is still not only is it the pitcher's best friend and all that, but it's beautiful. It's why we watch it, the natural 6-4-3 double play, 4-6-3, that kind of thing. And so we'll see a lot more.
Yeah. I don't like the shift. I think it's taken offense out of the game. I don't like the shift at all. And what it does is that now that ball would be a base hit. Now the pitcher's got to throw out of the stretch. The pitchers now are mostly throwing out of a windup or whatever. They can go to their strongest position to pitch. Now, if you put more guys on base, it's going to cause that pitcher to work out of the stretch a lot more. So I think it took a lot of offense out of the game. That's just me. The shift did.
Mike, I can't help but think in talking to you, you're so articulate and opinionated, and that's not a bad thing. How come you didn't get into coaching?
Well, I did for a year and a half, and with the White Sox, and I just don't think that I managed for a little bit, and I didn't like it. What can I say? So the guy started. You're in A ball and double A, and everybody's got an agent, and you sit a guy out, and the agent calls, "Why isn't my player playing?" Well, because I gave him a rest, or he popped off to me, or he's struggling a little bit. And another thing I didn't like was the organization. If you're a prospect, you're going to get all the playing time in the world, whether you're struggling or not. Winning is not the issue. Winning is not a priority in the minor leagues. I kind of get that, but the guy's struggling. He's a prospect. You can't pinch hit for him. If you do, you'll get a call from the organization. You can't do this. You can't do that. So I just didn't like the makeup of the minor league, and as far as managing and stuff, because I think you got to manage. You got to manage to teach these guys how to win a little bit. But also, too, you got to teach them how to respect. You got to teach the player how to respect their position. And if you're struggling, man, you got to work harder to get better. If you know that you're going to play and you're not working hard, you're still going to play. That doesn't teach a player anything.
Okay. Let me get off baseball a second. When you were growing up, what did you read and what music did you listen to? Get to know you a little bit that way.
Well, I'm a terrible reader. I do not like to read, but I like the like the mid to early 70s music, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. I wasn't a huge Beatles fan, but I liked heavy metal stuff, basically back in the day. Black Sabbath, when I was a kid in high school, was my favorite band. But as far as reading, I wasn't a reader. I did not like to read at all.
Okay. What movies did you like particularly? I really don't know. To be honest with you, back in the day, I movie-wise always liked probably cowboy movies. I like
some of the Alien movies that were out. I kind of enjoyed that
Okay.
when I was a kid.
And finally, I got to ask you, when you hung it up, what was that adjustment like for you? Was it the wheels spinning and nowhere to go, that kind of thing? How did you adjust to being a civilian?
I kept myself busy. I still conditioned. I ran a lot. I was in the gym a lot. I just tried to maintain my physical working out and stuff like that. It was a little difficult to make the move, but the good thing about me was that when I had elbow surgery, my strength of my arm was gone, so I knew I was done. That made it easier for me. If I was still kind of healthy and then, just couldn't play anymore or teams wouldn't pick me up, that would have been a little difficult. But, staying in conditioning, staying in the gym was my biggest thing that helped me get through all that after I retired.
Mike, what was your number one memory, the number one game that stands out in your mind, the thing that you go to, wow, that was something, and you say to yourself, in looking back at your career?
Well, I could say several different things, the 81, whenever the A's went to the playoffs with Billy Martin and all that. But probably my most memorable thing in my career was August 8th, 1987, when my daughter was born. That was probably the highlight that I remember the most.
Oh, wow. That is, we're going to end the interview with that because you cannot top that answer. And I cannot top the feeling that it gave me in getting to know you with that answer. So would you please come back sometime and we can pursue what we were talking about? And I would love that.
Ralph, just make a phone call, reach out to me, my friend, and I will be glad to be on your show at any time.
Oh, I'm pretty much glowing because I'm Walter Mitty, if you remember him, and this means a lot to me, Mike. Thank you very much.
Thank you for asking me. It's my honor to be on your show. Thank you.
Beautiful. Mike Heath, I'm Ralph Tycho, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. The show is Lovin' Baseball When We Were 12 and Innocent, and I think Mike Heath has never really been innocent. You knew what was going on from an early age, and we'll talk about your dad's influence next time you're on the show.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Ralph. I appreciate it, and Happy New Year, my friend.
Happy New Year to you. Make it a healthy one. That's the main thing.
Yes, sir.
And same to the audience. Keep coming back. Keep listening. Happy trails and adios.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.